Howdy, folks. I'm Rebecca Jolly, the Jolly Alchemist, here with a double day transit report. It's not really a double day, but it is a double line because, as I said before, those lines are not quite as long as a day, so they're offset a little bit, and sometimes I have to do two to catch up with the energy. So that's what we're doing today. So we will be looking at line 3 and line 4 of 48 and 21. But I will save the juxtaposition cross to go with the next day to make each day just slightly larger. Hopefully that will work. So let's talk about depth and control. Oh boy. So 48 line 3, 64 keys calls isolation, the development of depth as a process in isolation. And Ra calls it incommunicado because what's happening here is it is a process that is happening in isolation, and it's a process that happens over a great deal of time. So what happens for people that carry this third line, and of course I'm talking about the people, but we're all looking at that issue on this day because we're all carrying the line today, right? So whenever I'm talking about people who carry the line, I'm talking about people who carry it habitually. And then we're looking both at those people because they're having their birthdays now, and we're looking at these issues in our own lives because everyone has everything, just not all the time. All right, so 48. The third line is, back and forth, experimenting with it, figuring it out. And the point is that it's figuring it out by itself. The well, because it's such a deep thing, it has to fill up. It has to fill up over time. And while it's filling up over time, that 48-3 is sitting there going, will it ever fill? I feel this need to express the depth, but nobody's paying attention to me. Ross says, the fear of an intelligence lost in the wilderness. So it is very much a line of frustration. And I thought it was kind of interesting. I did not understand the depths of these lines before putting them together in the transit, but they actually kind of have a relationship. So let me get to 48-4 also. The 48-4 is called restructuring for long-term success. And what that means is the 4 actually has the possibility to get it out, whereas the 3 is kind of struggling with it internally and not knowing if it can get out. And we talked about that 48 has to have the 16 in order to get out. So he talks about this process where the 48 is, say, writing a book or writing a song, whatever. And they're all of a sudden activated by a transit or something happens, and they just feel the oh, now go, and they start writing. They start really producing whatever it is out of their depth, and then all of a sudden it ends. Whatever, the transit ends, the person who connected that 16 for them goes away, it's gone, and they think, mistakenly, unfortunately, they think, I'm an idiot, I lost it, I'm incompetent, and in their frustration, they turn around and they tear up what they were doing. And Ross said, that is a real shame, a real mistake. Don't tear it up. Just wait for it. Because what's happening is that depth has got to have a little more time to develop. So you can put out so much in your writing, whatever creative thing is yours to do, and then just let it sit. The temptation is to want to get it all out at once. Oh, and it's also because you have this pressure coming here from the 18, 3 and 4, which is wanting to correct it so bad. So this urge to correct it and make it perfect comes into the depth and makes that depth feel like, shit, I got to do it all. I got to do it now. And if I don't do it now, it's worthless. That's the mistake. The thing to do is remember, it's okay. The depth takes time. That well has to refill. Just leave it. Don't burn it. You can come back to it later, and then that well will be there for you again. And understanding that process These people who carry these activations can have a lot less frustration. They can understand that these are processes over the long term. It's a long-term success strategy, not short. So that's the key there. The 48-4 also has an up arrow on it. That is awareness that a restriction can only be overcome by long-term reorganizing. This is what I was talking about. This restriction of you feel like, oh, it can't get out, it can't get out. Ra himself talked about this because he had the 48, but of course no 16, and his 48 had to come to his throat through the 57. And he found that to be also frustrating. And he said once he figured out that it was okay, he didn't have to burn his shit, he could just let it sit and work on a project for years if necessary. Then he was like, oh, shit, all right. And things became much easier for him to flow rather than just being so frustrated and so anxious because that depth is burning to get out. And of course, that makes people who have 48s without 16s burn to get the skills so that it can get out, not recognizing that it's fine. The skills will come. The skills will be there in the moment. Just wait. That depth is, that well is building, building, building. But that building process, it doesn't feel great. So it's difficult. All right. So don't think you're incompetent. Just honor the muse and wait for it to swing back around on the guitar. Like, what is it? Who says that? Oh, I'll have to. That's one of my favorite phrases. I'll swing back around to that one too. All right. So now the power side of the whole thing. So in power, 21-3 is powerlessness, confrontation with superior forces, and for once 64 keys did not change it, even though powerlessness sounds kind of, like scary and shocking, confrontational. But what it's about is the nature of power for beings who are meant to help to hold power. This 21, the hunter, biting through. It's mine, right? But especially when they're children, that is so difficult. So these power people, line 3, need to know that that third line is the pathway to becoming a superior force. Very interesting. So the first thing is that when the 21-3 runs into a superior force, a boss or a parent or somebody who's controlling them from above, they'll withdraw. Ross says they always just withdraw. They withdraw from the material process. Fuck you, I'm not going to do this. They won't engage. And that's a difficult thing for those 21 line 3 people. And he says the key is just don't have a boss. Never. Just organize your life as much as you can to be your own boss, to not have somebody working over you. If you're working for a corporation, set up some sort of contract where you can come in from the side and still be your own boss, and that will make it so that you don't have to withdraw from those superior forces. And specifically with children, it's difficult for them because if they are forced to withdraw from those superior forces when they're children, it can become for them a conditioning influence so that they just go, for fuck's sake, and just fall down in their whole entire lives. We don't want that. We definitely want them to be able to rise up and have some kind of control over their lives as children so that they don't get so squashed and not take the control that they're meant to have as adults. And so he says, just know that's the key for you. Work it out so that you don't have to have somebody on top of you, and you'll be all right with that third line. Then when we get to the fourth line, it becomes strategy. All right. So strategic action through clarity and instinct. What's happening there is they recognize they have the power, and it becomes, okay, how do I use that power, right? How can I control the the forces and the environment. So they're getting strategic about it. And some people can think of this as being manipulative, but you've got to understand this is tribal energy. So this is the only way that the tribal energy gets to the throat for manifestation. It's got to have control. And so it's a good thing. This is properly used ego power right there. But sometimes that can, go a wonky as well. And specifically today, that power does have the detriment on it, and that is the display of power that misses existing circumstances and attacks windmills, wasting power to no avail. So we have our Don Quixote energy going on here. And it's about misjudging the power of the opponents or the other forces so that you're using the power kind of inefficiently. But Ra says the key for that fourth line was in the third line process, in that third process of recognizing that the superior force is going to make you bow out. Then you can get to the key, which is you don't have to be powerless. You just have to understand how to control the situation and not to manipulate people. Or if it is to manipulate people, it's for a good cause. It's to bring resources to the community and make sure that people have their support. This is the ego or willpower going to work for the tribe. And this is what we want it to do. Because when it does that, it can make money. It can manifest. It can bring materialism in to the tribe by that pathway. When you understand that it's about just fixing your strategy, you don't have to just withdraw, then you don't have to be powerful, or you don't have to be powerless. You can understand that you are the superior force. And it's that kind of confidence that the 21 needs in order to go ahead and be able to control things tightly, loosely, however it works. Let them think they're in control, but whatever it takes, do that, so that the process can get to the throat and the resources can be achieved. He said a lot of times people recognize it and they think it might be manipulation, but it's to their advantage, actually, so it's all good. And that's kind of how it is. It's not necessarily a power that is used for evil. All these things coming out of the ego and willpower center are extremely powerful and can be used incorrectly to manipulate and take advantage of others. But these people who have activations here just have to remember, use your power for good, all is well. So that's depth and control there. All right, so now we move into our people energies, and we also have a Chiron shift today, so woohoo! All right, so people energies. If we start in 63.6, 63 is skepticism or doubts. And that sixth line, the last of the process, is overcoming the logic that leaves nostalgia behind, or in this case, old doubts. So you have old doubts, but you're just like, it's okay. It's part of a process. I don't need to hold on to those doubts. Let's release them and move wholeheartedly into the process of refining the logic so that we can have a pattern for the future. When the moon is done with that, interestingly enough, here's an interesting pattern I noticed, because I'm always looking at those moon energies to see if they make a connection in the transit. And today there are no connections internal to the transit. And part of that is because every single gate that the moon is going through after 63 is already activated in the chart, and there's no internal activations in the chart by itself. So I was like, okay, those are 22, which we have in the nodes. 22 is the moods, yeah, and the ability to listen to people when you're in the mood, or to speak to people when you're in the mood. 36, right next to it, that's the crisis or compassion, getting ready to have that emotional experience that will lead to something that can be talked about. And then 25, That's from the G center towards the ego center, that innocence and innocent healing, which we had two times for a while, but now it's sitting in Neptune. So those are the energies that the moon will be going through. We have Mercury starting off in 50, line 2. 50 is our values here. And line 2 was determination to maintain one's values with strength. It moves into the third line, which is adaptability, awareness that support is necessary. This third line is my line, and what it's not saying there when it's talking about adaptability is that that third line becomes aware. Sometimes your values have to be negotiable. Yeah? And that was certainly the case for me. Raising my children, sometimes I had to fucking break my values, or at least bend them severely, and do things that I would not normally do to support my children. My values got real flexible there for a while. Real flexible. And that was the adaptability. It's what I had to do. Support is necessary. Yeah. So, Venus energy starts at 47, line 3. 47 is the other side of 64, making sense of confusion, and the 64 is, of course, that confusion. So 47, line 3 is integrity despite external oppression. So despite being oppressed by the confusion, it's okay, you're keeping your shit together, you're going to maintain, and it's going to be okay. You have an awareness that you can make sense of that confusion, at least on some level. Mars energy starts at 44, line 2 with a down arrow. We talked about 44-2, but not the down arrow, which is... Well, let's look at 44-2 again. That's management, the purposeful development of collective structures for management. And the down arrow is the focus on objectives is so strong that one tends to ignore people, which leads to quantitative success and qualitative failure. I met somebody who had this line in the detriment, and I tried to explain to him that all the working and the flogging, the humping that he was doing to make money was a real example of this quantitative success and qualitative failure. He was he was renting hotel rooms and then re-renting them to other people for more, and he was always going back and forth and back and forth, and every time he went back and forth to the casinos or in the hotels, he was taking these Uber lifts, which are relatively expensive, and he was doing it so often that I think he was eating his profit. So he was getting a lot of business, but he himself didn't have a house. He was renting a room in somebody else's house. And I was trying to say, look, quantitatively, you are succeeding, but qualitatively, look what you're getting for this high energy lifestyle. It's not really that much. You might want to rethink that strategy there. But he was so focused on it that he wasn't stopping for me. So I was like, okay, well, now I see that that line in action there. Thank you very much for the lesson. So that's the energy that's going on today in Mars. All right, so the global energies are stable. And I went through those recently, so I'm not going to do that again, but we do have a Chiron shift, so let's look at that. Chiron is, of course, the wounded healer. This is a place where when people who have this as their imprint at birth will have this as an issue from early childhood on. They'll have to deal with it. It will be a spot where they are weak and sort of wounded, but if they can address it, if they can get over it themselves, then they become really wise teachers for other people in these areas. So this is the Chiron that is being imprinted on children as they are born right now, but of course we and globally are feeling it ourselves also. So let's look at what that is. That's 42.5. Now, 42 is the gate of ending. So beginning, ending, cyclical learning. This is finishing it up, coming to maturity. So 42.5 is about Maturity, self-fulfillment is what it's called. Let me see what the regular is on that. A growth that leads to self-fulfillment. All right, but the down arrow, which is going to be the Chiron, is self-fulfillment as a strictly inner experience that blooms in the dark and can't be seen because of withdrawal. So, we are having this energy arise in us now, whereas just recently it was the unhealthy materialism that refuses to share the process of growth with others and encourages aggression. So, that's quite sharp. It's retrograded back to 5, which is not quite so sharp in this whole bit of self-fulfillment. So it's about finishing processes, becoming self-fulfilled, but nobody ever sees it because you're in withdrawal and it's kind of in the dark. So it's something that we can look at and try to overcome. Because Chiron is still in retrograde, we're going to be feeling this for a while. But it's nice to take a minute and consider this energy and think about it. Okay, how might this be expressing itself in me? How might I be becoming self-fulfilled in a way that's not reaching the outside or not showing to other people because I'm withdrawn right now, and so it's just sort of a light under a bushel happening. So there's that. Okay, so our song for today is Closer to Fine by Indigo Girls. And I thought that that song really expressed depth, wanting to get out, trying to understand how to get out. How do I get closer to being fine? And it could also apply to, being fine in terms of, how do I get control? And it's got all these different, things that are going on, things that the Indigo Girls see as relevant to the issue. So if you haven't listened to that song in a while, it's not new, but it's a good song. Go and take a listen to it and think about how that might express for you some relevant energy today. So I'm holding off that juxtaposition cross for tomorrow, but it is the juxtaposition cross of depth, I believe. Let's take a quick look here at that. Double check. And what's happening on that juxtaposition is, of course, that underlying energy will shift. It is the cross, juxtaposition cross of depth, and our underlying energy, which is now 3839, will be shifting to an underlying energy, which gives us that perfect across juxtaposition, which we will talk about tomorrow. So, my tie. Check this out. So I started off with green, then pink, now blue. This tie of tension is growing on me because it goes so well with so many colors. I didn't like this tie to begin with, but I thought it is kind of tense looking. And now I'm like, I might actually wear this somewhere. So, tension does have a purpose. It's not just for badness, and this tie has actually kind of shown me that. So, think about it. Take care. See you tomorrow. We'll do another transit report. Ciao.